throw up.
Chuck up some deuces.
We just started the podcast, and Sarah's like, I'm gonna throw up.
I'm gonna throw up.
I will fucking throw up.
I just was throwing up gangster signs.
I want to ask you guys a question.
Okay.
Something I was reading a tweet recently about the way people think, right?
Okay.
And I don't mean like personality. I mean like literally the way you think. Do the two of you have internal monologues?
Oh, I read this.
All the time.
Yes!
Constantly.
I do not understand how people cannot have an internal monologue.
Is your brain just
I don't have an
quiet?
internal monologue.
So when
Must
you
be fucking nice.
so then that means whenever you have a thought process, you just have to say it out loud.
I do frequently talk to myself. Yes.
Interesting. Because
It's
I
funny.
talk in my head all the time.
It's funny that you bring this up because I was actually reading this post on Tumblr the other day about this person, and they're basically explaining how like they have complex thoughts in their heads, and then through like the hamster mansion that is their brain, it comes out their mouth like super simple and like almost stupid. So they were talking to their friend or like parent or family member or somebody, and they wanted to say something like very eloquently. They were trying to say something like, if the person cooking it will allow it, I sometimes like my beef a little bit more pink on the inside. And what came out was, if allowed, I would eat raw beef. And it's like that's my brain. I have these like complex sentences in my brain,
But your mouth can't keep up.
and then what comes out of my mouth is just stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's so. Ever since I was little, my parents used to make fun of me for this thing that my brain 100% works a lot faster than my mouth does.
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of the times I will be doing something like I'll be sipping hot chocolate, and I'll sip and I'll go, "Oh, that's cold. I mean hot."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And
always
you
and
say
I
the opposite.
always do that.
Yeah,
but
I do that all the time. Cam is always telling me like, "Do you mean this?" Because I'll
Yeah.
say like, "Oh, like I hate pickles," and I'll like, and
like,
what
wait,
I
no,
need to say
I
is
love
like,
pickles.
I'll be like, "I hate pickles,"
Yeah.
but what will come out of my mouth is, "I love pickles."
Right.
And Cam is like,
What?
I don't.
I know.
think
I know
you
for
do.
a fact.
Big
Like
fact
I know
about
you,
pickles for
and I
you.
know that you pick
Pretty
pickles off of your
confident
burgers.
you hate pickles, actually.
Yeah, like super vocal about how you don't like anything.
I whip out my
pickled.
pickle and you said no.
Yeah.
She constantly
You
refuses
did tickle
my
my pickle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, but with
Never
that's
accept
interesting because
pickles.
I realize I don't have that at all. Like
Because you're a man and you're allowed to just have like a calm brain, and people give you the space to say what you
Well-
want
I
to say
don't
and
think
finish your
that
thoughts
that-
all the way through.
I mean, okay.
I don't think that
I also
that's
just think I don't visualize
fair.
with words. My brain is far more.
I hope that's it.
My brain is far more vision based and like
Yeah.
image based. So like if I can picture what something looks like, I can describe it and think about it and understand it. But if I can't, then I have a harder time.
Yeah, I asked my coworker this actually because a friend of mine posted an online like the story, whatever millennials words
Yeah,
lit
story.
spam
Phones. The story is correct.
Story.
fogeezy,
I think
whatever.
story is the word that you're looking
Yeah.
for.
Okay. Dope. So, anyways, so they posted it, and then I asked my coworker. I said, "Man, do you have an inner monologue?" He's like, "I don't know." I was like, "What do you mean you don't know?" And he's like, "Well, I say things out loud, but I also say some things in my head." He's like, "I just don't have full conversations with myself. I'll say just like get meat or like pick up my clothes, and I'll say that in my head." But I won't have like a back and forth conversation where I'm answering my own questions and we're kind of having, there's an actual quote unquote dialogue happening in my brain.
And so you two have dialogues with one another, with
can-
yourself.
What I like to do,
Kinda
and
just
I've
go
done this
off.
a few times because I suffer with mental illness. Like 100% I've dealt with depression just through having lupus and going through all the things I have gone through in life. And I've noticed the one thing that really helps me deal with it is stepping back from the situation and not playing it out in my head, but essentially having a conversation with myself in my head saying, "Okay, Sarah, what is upsetting you right now? Is it this? No. Okay, if it's not that, then is it this? No." And this is the conversation I have in my head. No one else needs to hear this.
Well, of course not.
But at the same time, it would be nice if I could say it out loud. It might, I don't know, it might be
Yeah.
cathartic in a way, but for
Yeah.
me, I always have myself questioning what I'm doing in my brain.
That's interesting.
When you're alone, do you talk to yourself out loud?
Sometimes
Okay.
like when I'm driving. When I'm
Okay.
driving, I will
Me too,
have
actually.
full
Interesting.
conversations out loud. I will talk about, if there's an argument happening, then I'm saying both of those sides of that argument and like I'm into it. But if I'm in a situation where I'm with other people, or it's just the mood. Like if I'm in my apartment by myself, I've got my fireplace on, candles are going, I'm not going to, sit there and talk out loud. I'm just going to be in my head and chill.
Right, right. So if I could ask then, you two with internal monologues, how would you describe your thoughts like right now? Like what's going through your head?
Sexy.
I'm trying to
So
shut
horny.
off my internal monologue because I'm actually actively working on my active listening, because I find that my internal monologue, it's like that thing, where they say that like
You're half
conversations aren't really conversations, they're just people waiting for the next turn to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
And my
So
inner
true.
monologue interrupts that a lot. Like I have actually had two thoughts going at once, where I'm like listening to someone and then I'm like, okay, I have my reaction, my retort in my head.
Right.
So let's think about something else. And then I'll think about like something that my mom said to me like 8 years ago.
See, and it's funny 'cause-
and elaborate on my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And it was affecting my ability to like converse with people that I care about.
be present.
And be
Yeah,
present.
being
So,
present is so
So
important.
right now, I'm trying to actively listen and shut off my brain and really like take in what everybody's saying.
Well, it's funny because
But like, so just to finish my
Yeah, of
thought,
course,
like,
finish your thought.
I walk around in circles for my job. Like I pick grocery carts. I'm just walking around by myself with a cart,
Right.
like mindlessly scanning things. That's a lot of time to just like be by yourself.
yeah, to have,
and with
to have
your
the clock
thoughts.
ticking.
So my inner monologue then is just like way out there, and I react to my inner monologue. So like I laugh, I grimace, I
Oh my gosh, I think I'm so funny.
yeah,
I'm not. I have
yeah.
the best dad
You are
jokes
funny.
in my brain.
Totally.
But-
And like
Yeah.
some like my parents over like the course of my life have been like, "What are you smiling about?"
Yeah.
Ooh, especially when I was a teenager and they thought I was like into somebody.
You thinking about boy?
Are you
yeah,
kidding
and I'd be
me?
like,
I
no,
have
I'm thinking about like this thing that happened at a slumber party 2 weeks ago.
I have
that I'm still
natural rosy
laughing.
cheeks.
Yeah.
And so whenever growing up, it was always I would smile. I would do the exact same thing, and
Yeah,
I would start
yeah.
smiling, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're blushing. Are you thinking about
Yeah.
a boy?" I'm like, "Nah, bitch. I'm thinking about the fact that I just fought it and it was funny."
Yeah. Think about all this pasta I'm
Or
gonna
you
cook
like
and eat
you like
later.
have these like scenarios in your head that
Yeah.
you play out. You're thinking about an argument like 2 years ago that you would have
Yeah.
like ended differently or something.
and you
like
get that sense of satisfaction because
Yeah.
like it's been so long and the outcome doesn't
Yeah.
matter, but when you think about the outcome you want, you like almost can believe it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Or the ever popular like imagining yourself on a talk show, like explaining
Oh,
your
yeah.
life and like why you did things that you did in your
Me.
past. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Me.
But it's
That's
funny.
my favorite one. I love to imagine myself on Ellen. If I'm ever actually on Ellen for any reason, it'll be such a trip because it's like
'Cause,
I've
like, you-
imagined this.
I
You're
have
having
talked
deja
this
vu.
conversation over 4
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my head.
Oh.
I'd be like, oh my god, Ellen, like for by all means ask me about the snowball war of like
Yeah.
2005.
Please,
Yeah,
dude.
I need to explain
It's funny because
myself.
my working experience is totally different. Like I relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But because my work environment is very fast paced, I'm either always on the phone, always talking to clients, always in my car, or I'm always busy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I have, say, something that might potentially bother me, or even if I just zone out for a minute, I stop work.
Okay.
I cannot do. I used to. I think when I was younger, I don't know if this is an age thing, but when I was younger, I feel like I could multitask a lot better in terms of like texting and listening at the same time.
Interesting.
Because in my brain, that is kind of similar to this.
Yeah.
Having an inner monologue and then also trying to keep a conversation is like texting and listening at the same time.
It's interesting, right? Because they say that like when I was a kid, it was like in terms of multitasking, male people typically have a harder time multitasking than females. But the thing now that's coming on, as things have changed, is basically said that you just shouldn't multitask at all.
Yeah.
Is what I hear.
It's like people say that you are doing like multiple things badly when you could just be doing one thing super well.
Super well, yeah. Well, that's what like when I was thinking about what you just said now. I find that now in my old age, at 24.
Yeah, okay.
I crisp 24.
Yeah, you're
So
the
what am
youngest
I, a
person in the
grandma?
room. Yeah.
So-
27 years of life.
yeah.
if
Give
I'm
me a break.
when I'm hanging out with people now, I tend to like, unless it's quiet or casual, like I'll look at my phone. I could look at Twitter and talk to people. I can't text or message or email or anything else. If I have to formulate a thought, like I need to be one thing at a time.
Do you ever find that your thoughts leak into your text messages?
Oh, there's times where I'll be
Sometimes,
texting and then I'll say what I'm texting out loud to someone in a conversation.
I was joking around with a friend of mine because if you know me, I love to joke about boobs and like I'm very like I just Titties.
Bewbs.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Bewbs.
We just found the title of this podcast.
It's like pubes, but better.
With like a bracket and a period and another bracket.
yeah.
So, but I was talking to a
great
friend of
idea.
mine, and I was legitimately like, just like, yeah, and I was texting, was it my mom or my dad, a family member, and I was just like, yeah, man, she had a killer rack, and I hit send, and I text my mom, yes, I'll be home after a killer rack.
Oh.
And my mom was
you
like,
can save that though. You know
what?
And she's like, what are you talking about?
I was like, killer rack. It's what the kids are saying now, Ma. It
Yeah.
just means like a fun day.
It was a killer rack. Today,
Yeah, it's
Mom.
a
Like
killer
your mom
rack,
like
bruh.
tries to like incorporate that, and she like talks like she comes home and your dad is like, "How was your day today?" She's like, "Oh, it was a
The
killer
best thing
rack."
is like my mom's a grade 3 teacher, so she comes to school and she's like, "Okay, kids, it's gonna be a killer rack day." Trying to be like cool and hip.
Actually,
Yeah.
on that note, we should talk about who are you?
Who am I?
Sarah's here.
Well, it's a
You're-
deep question.
You're a good friend of ours.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to think so.
Another
you
good
are.
friend of
I
the
just
pod.
leave.
Yeah, really. Yeah, we just brought you here for chill spot, Sarah. Let's not don't get too
Don't get
big
ahead
for
of
your
yourself.
britches. Okay.
Well, you were technically our first guest.
Technically,
But
but
You were supposed
our-
to be our first ever guest.
apparently,
Yeah.
I have You know what though? It's been that way my entire life. I have very bad luck with technology. I always have. So, anyways, I'm Sarah. I am 27. No, I've been friends with Sam and Cam for
For ages now.
a while
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean, like,
Good couple years.
would have met you.
No, I think it's going. It
4?
would have been going 4.
Yeah,
5
you know
years?
what? It was because I met you not long after I started dating Cam.
Yeah.
I remember, like, it was pretty
Yeah.
fresh.
No, it was awesome, and like it's been great because you guys have been like the bee's knees.
We've brightened up each other's lives.
Oh my god!
I'd be a
getting
teensy bit
emotional.
more sad if Sarah wasn't in my life.
A teensy bit. I'll take it. I shall take it.
Sarah's like, you know what? Normally I'd be offended by
Yeah.
that, but I'm gonna
No,
let it slide.
I'm just on such a high that fuck it. No, it's
Absolutely.
been awesome, and like Cam and I, we've done Dungeons and Dragons
That's
together.
right.
Sam and I were just punk relations.
Life.
all
Yes,
over
that's
it.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. We both had
started off
emo
with that.
phases.
You guys
We
went to go
wore
see Paramore
chucks.
together.
Yes.
And we went to go see July Talk together, which was a
Yes.
dope concert.
Yes. No,
Actually,
it's good.
I was thinking about the concert the other day, actually. The July Talk concert.
I was
They're
thinking
coming
about
back to
Paramore the other
town.
day, actually.
I was too, oddly
Yeah.
enough, because they were playing on the radio, and I was driving with a friend of mine, and I'm like, they actually do put on a good show. It was unfortunate that to me they didn't play more of like the really, really well-known hits.
Yeah.
the stuff you like.
Well, when we
But-
saw them, they were touring their new album.
Yes,
So they were
exactly.
playing mostly the new album, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But
You're there for the goldie oldies, okay?
I was gonna say like
I agree.
I don't like artists who are like, I don't want to play. Like, for example, Hayley Williams refuses to play Misery Business anymore.
Are you serious?
She will not play that anymore. Now,
Misery Business?
Mis-
Well,
Misery
you know what?
Business
She got a
was-
little bit of flack for that because it is kind of
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't want to say misogynistic. I guess it is. No, I'll say that.
So
it's a little
she essentially she
don't think I've
came
heard of
back. It was like, I would argue that it was the song that put Paramore on the charts.
It broke them through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it was
Like
she-
mainstream appeal.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So at the time, so her argument nowadays, because I talked to this about my friend, because I was livid. I was like, it's not, as selfish as this sounds, like, it's not about you. It's about what your audience wants, and your
Yeah,
audience wants
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Misery Business.
Yeah.
Like, GNR doesn't stop playing Sweet Child of Mine because they've overplayed it too much.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, her thing was saying she was a different Hayley at that time.
Yeah.
Her whole band was different. Her mindset was different. Her life was different.
Yeah.
Now she's evolved as an artist, as a person, and she just finds that song hasn't matured with her like the rest of the band.
And you know, like,
most of the band has.
Yeah. And
So sure, I get it.
for what it's worth, like for Cam's sake and for anybody else who like wasn't an emo kid,
Like who?
like Misery Business is basically about shitting on your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend.
How does it go? Like,
I'm
is
in
it
the
like a
business of misery. Let's take it from the top.
She's got a body like an hourglass, it's ticking like a clock. In a matter of time, you know, it'll all run out.
Is it
I
like-
thought
is
it
it-
was mine. She caught him by the mouth.
It's like a famous chorus or something? Like, I genuinely never heard the song before.
Well, I think so. I think what you should do is once the podcast is done, listen to it.
Okay.
Well, watch the music video too, and then you'll really see why she doesn't want to play it anymore.
And honestly, YouTube it as well.
You at home, go listen to it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because it's still a great killer. She has insane vocals.
yeah.
Well, Hayley
but
Williams is so talented, right? She's such a great
so
vocalist.
talented. But again, it's just
Yeah,
one
that's
of
how
these
it goes.
artists who are just like,
Mm.
I'm good. I'm moving on from that, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I respect you, but like, fuck you.
I see where you're coming from though, because
Yeah.
in my opinion,
I'm so torn about that.
what I think torn is a good word, because I want to respect Hayley Williams for how she thinks, and I think that if she's not comfortable or if she feels as though she's grown, she's allowed to feel that way.
Yep.
But at the same time, this old song is beloved by so many of your fans. You may as well consider it a celebration of them,
That's how I saw
And,
it.
like,
or a celebration of the band you used to be.
I just remember it being the song that that was when they had like a tradition where they would like, there's a part in the song that like really kicks it up to 11, and at that part she would bring a fan on stage, like she would pluck somebody from the crowd and like sing it with them, and everyone was like you didn't have to be a good singer either, like she would just like sing with you, and everybody would get super hyped.
It's about expression
and, it was
and
super
having
wholesome,
fun,
and everyone was really supportive, and it was great. And she would like do awesome crowd work and stuff like that. So that's also why I'm surprised that she said that she doesn't want to play it anymore, because like that was the song where it's like everybody knows the words, everybody gets so hyped for it. Bring a fan up on stage, get everybody even more hype at the concert.
It's a bold choice.
Like, it's like, what song are you gonna do that with a different song?
Yeah.
Or
So this is also the other issue I
because
had.
you could, but like whatever.
At our concert, if you remember, she started. I don't remember. I very clearly remember the whole song. She did acoustic,
Interesting.
which I was pissed.
Did she do Misery Business acoustic?
I can't remember. I know for sure she started with it acoustic, and then she might have ended it not. But I was with, because I remember I had a couple friends that actually ended up going to that concert, so I was kind of bouncing back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they had seats a little closer.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I remember sitting beside my friend, and he's just like, she's gonna do Misery Business, but they do it acoustic now, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It's kind of
Like,
lame.
Yeah.
I don't mind
the whole
acoustic
point of that
covers,
song is it's a good headbanger song.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like,
I kind of don't like acoustic versions of songs.
it depends on the song. 100%.
Honestly,
I think it
depends
depends
on
in
the
my
on the
song.
song.
in my opinion, like my only exception is Layla
For
by
me.
Eric Clapton, where it's like that song goes hard.
That's so.
But like
Layla.
the acoustic Layla is so lit.
I'm so opposite of that.
Really?
I cannot stand it. First of all, it drags on for like an hour.
It is a long
And
song.
second of all, I just love that. Like,
So-
it's so rich.
It's funny you mentioned that. I heard the acoustic cover of Layla. This actually kind of bothered me. When Buddy Brad showed it to me, and then you had also heard of it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if you guys intended to do this, but I was like, wait, isn't there a faster version of this song?
Yeah.
And you both were like, no.
Yeah, I actually forgot about it.
And like,
That's how much I like it.
well, here's the thing. They're like, no, like this is the only version. And I'm like, but I knew for sure
Yeah.
that there's a faster version. And like, obviously you weren't both trying to like gaslight me, obviously. But I got like
Gaslight
really
us.
frustrated.
Yeah.
I was like, no, and I got to the point where I was hanging out with Brad alone, and I was trying to explain to him like, yeah, there's a faster. Here's how it goes. He's like, no, no, no. And I looked it up and fucking played it for him.
Yeah.
Like, listen to me.
I know. It's the same. Honest, it's not okay. It's not really the same, but you know, that song "Singing Sweet Home Alabama" all summer long by Kid Rock.
Kid Rock, yeah.
So that is the exact same beat as "Werewolves of London."
I don't think I've heard that song before.
It's so good.
Who's it by?
Werewolves. Oh my
Title
gosh.
sounds familiar.
Werewolf.
And he's
I'll
just
look it up.
like "Werewolves of London." It's so
all summer long.
so good. But I argued with somebody because they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, okay, Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
Warren Zevon.
Yes.
Yeah.
All sound the same.
Okay.
And I had to honestly play them back to back
There's only so
and
many
say,
chord progressions.
look,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's interesting. We were just talking about chord progressions the other night, and how some songs, like some really out there songs, can have same chord progressions.
Yeah.
Like, did you know that Justin Bieber's "Baby" has the same chord progression
Yeah.
as Slipknot's "Psychosocial"?
Yes.
I love that video.
I love, because there's one of the radio stations I listen to, they actually have a segment where they show
really?
the resemblance.
No way.
And it's really interesting. But at the same time, it is 2020. How many different chord
Yeah.
progressions can there be?
No,
Exactly,
I've heard,
yes,
I have read interviews with musicians who say like every single possible melody has been used.
Yeah.
We're just finding new ways to recycle them.
Absolutely.
And like that in and of itself is an art. Like
Yeah.
I will admit that.
Well,
I was,
you need a
I
good
was
ear
listening
to
to,
hear chord progressions.
I was listening to the Dissect podcast a couple of weeks ago, and the host was making a defense for the use of sampling in hip hop, because a lot of musicians will say like, oh, it's not really, you're not really making music, you're just like taking music that already exists and like putting your voice over it. And he's like, do you have any idea
what an obtuse way of thinking?
How much artistry you have to have within yourself to listen to a song and figure out a new way to like flip it, pitch it down, pitch it up, change, like stretch it out, speed it up, like make it fit your song, you know what I mean? Like yeah, we're like running out of melodies, and yeah, like sampling seems superficial on the surface, but like I don't know, I think taking something that already exists and making it your own is an artistry within itself.
Of course.
Like that's why I don't shit on pop music, because
why isn't
like,
everybody a musician?
How can you take this same popular sound that's been going on forever and like make it your own, make it different, make it
pop's an art,
you
man.
know, like make it catchy again.
Well, and see, this is the thing too, is
like when saxophone solos came back, I was like, fuck yeah,
Kenny G.
Kenny G.
No, I'm very old soul, and you guys know this, but so I love big band music.
Oh, totally.
So like Glenn Miller, Benny
That's
Goodman.
True. You love like
Bobby
going
Darin.
swing dancing.
Love,
you and
yes.
your parents do that.
Frank Sinatra, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's one night. Oh, anybody. Okay, this is for anybody out there. If you guys just want a super fun night, simple, non-shameless plug. If you want a super fun night, the third Saturday in November, Hamilton Warplane Museum puts on a swing night, and there's a full orchestra, full buffet, dress up in costume. It's so much fun. Anyway, back to my thought.
Go to Sarah's Swingers Night.
Yeah.
And
swing
pineapples
dancers night.
or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I love that music, because to me it takes so much skill to orchestrate all the different sounds to come together. Like there's a lot behind it. I wish it would come back in a sense.
Well, I mean,
because it just hasn't. It's one of, everything kind of repeats. Fashion repeats itself.
Yep.
Arguably music repeats itself.
yeah. That's an interesting topic. But go on.
Like it's just, we come back around, like even dubstep. Arguably, we started with synthesizers back in the 80s, and then we kind of faded away from it, and then we got into dubstep, which is essentially a fancier... Okay, people are going to get so fucking mad at me for this. It's a fancier synthesizer, essentially.
Right. It's all,
Well, it's all electronic. Like, it's
all
the same
electronic.
idea. I don't want to say same idea as New Wave, but it's got the same
But it
sort
has
of
the
vibe
roots
of,
from
like,
it.
all machine. Like, generated entirely by machines.
Exactly.
No instruments.
But it's still the idea that we've had something from quote-unquote back in the day that has resurfaced, grown, evolved, and now is something that stems from that.
Different, yeah.
Big band, yes, we have so much that comes from it, but we've never circled back truly. Maybe Michael Bublé, sure.
I'd argue he's not nearly as good as the oldies.
But that's the thing, is we have not yet circled back to that time where we listened to, first of all, wordless orchestral music.
Yeah.
Because a lot of big band is just big band
Very
instruments
true.
with sweet-ass solos
amazing
in it.
soundscapes, though.
Yeah.
They take you on. It's
but
crazy.
It surprises me that because we're kind of in this, I don't really want to say rut, but we're in this repetitive world, that we haven't just been like, let's go back to the basics and try this again, but maybe put a new swing on it.
Right.
I
I would love it if some like major pop star did something with big band music.
And you know what?
Like,
if I'm wrong,
give it a resurgence.
Put a link in the comments and give me a YouTube.
Let us know.
If I'm just being naive, because I used to think that I listened to a lot of different music, but there's so much music out there.
You can't listen to every... Like, I think if I was to dedicate myself to listen to lots of kinds of music, I'd have to sacrifice another thing that I like to do.
Yes.
I mean, like,
I couldn't watch as many TV shows or play as many video games.
Don't you listen to somebody who does... I don't think it classifies as big band. It's more just like orchestral, because there is a difference between big band and like just like orchestral music or like symphonies and stuff like that. But like, you listen to somebody who recreates video game music with
It's insane. His name is Insane in the Rain Music. He's extremely popular. Like, I have no reason to plug him other than that I love him. He's a saxophone player.
Sick.
So he plays all his saxophone player. What he does is, I think it's actually really genius. He applies the principle of freestyle jazz to video game music, because something that's really interesting about jazz and video game music is a lot of early video game music is based off jazz.
Yeah.
Koji Kondo, one of the earliest music producers in video games, he created the Mario Brothers theme. You know, do 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 do, like he made that. So, but you sorry, I thought we're getting into it. But if you think about that, Koji Kondo, when he wrote that with chiptunes and blips and beats, it is a jazz song.
Yeah.
He broke it down that way. And and as a result, a lot of video game music can be applied to jazz. So when Insane in the Rain, what he does, he gets his like trusty sax, and I believe he plays all of the instrument, and then he mixes it together. So he'll play a jazz cover of the song, the original. But then he applies the principles of freestyle jazz. So he'll add a new layer and a new layer and a new layer until this point
Jazz
where I
is
swear to
great.
God, like, okay, the song I suggest everyone should go listen to is the Me Shop channel or the Me channel. You probably know the theme. Do 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 do. Yeah, totally, right? So go listen to that, and I swear to God, 3 minutes in, it's like you're not even listening to the song.
Yeah.
It becomes a whole new jazzscape.
See, but that's the beauty about jazz.
Well, that's what I love about jazz.
I took a jazz course in university, and that was one of my favorite things about jazz is the freedom that they have for
Totally.
just changing it and fighting.
And how
It's
hard it
actually
is to make
funny
it interesting.
because people shit on La La Land, but he
We
Oh
just
my
talked
god,
about
we
this.
literally just spent the last podcast talking about La La
We're not.
Land.
I'm not going. I'm just gonna say he does actually an amazing job with explaining how jazz is great because it's like a conversation that the instruments are having.
Totally.
Killer. That's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say about that. Dropping La La Land, moving back.
It's a great movie.
No,
Everyone
no,
should go watch La La Land.
It was a complicated discussion because, like, I don't hate La La Land.
Yeah.
But I don't love La La Land the way that people love La La Land.
That's fair.
Like, we have friends who just, like, worship the ground that it walks on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
but
It is a
it's
great
not
movie.
Like,
It's a great
Cinematography is
movie.
good too.
it's not
Yeah.
like a monolith in
Yeah.
cinema. It's
Yeah.
just a really, really well done movie.
I agree, yeah. It's kind of like, if you want to get real controversial, it's kind of like how I feel about Joker. You ever see Joker?
I have not because I heard that it was very good, but kind of fucks you up.
No. Okay, so...
You know what? I've changed my thinking on Joker because I've watched more of Joaquin Phoenix talking about Joker, and like the fact that the actor who played such a contentious character seems to have a good grip on like what was good about him and what was bad about him.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't say what's good and what's bad. I should say, like, what makes him an interesting character to play, but what ultimately makes him a bad person that you shouldn't like or want to cheer for in any capacity. I'm like, okay, a sane person.
Yeah.
And not that anybody who's ever played the Joker in the past is, like, not sane, but
Right.
it's just, like,
But-
I just like that in 2020, this, like, textbook sociopath character was played by somebody who was responsible enough to understand what he was playing
Yeah.
and step into the role and not get too,
Not
like,
become an asshole on
not feel like
set.
he has to get lost in it and not feel like he has to, you know, do some crazy, stupid Jared Leto sending people dead rats in envelopes bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, just
Just be a
act
character.
it.
Yeah.
You know, it's that Laurence Olivier talking to Dustin Hoffman. Like, you could just act.
Yeah.
Laurence
You don't have to do all this
Olivier.
crazy shit. You could just
So
act.
what
Like,
I was gonna say, I think what I realized when it comes to the Joker is I actually have a bigger problem with the reaction to the movie than I have with the movie itself.
yeah.
I think the Joker is great. I think Joker is awesome. Like you just said, Joaquin Phoenix is a great performance. It's
Yeah.
directed well. It's visually beautiful. Blah blah blah. This and that. The other thing. This is what everybody says about the Joker.
Right.
What bothers me about the Joker is that there's people who come out who say like, "This is a groundbreaking film. No film ever made like it," and it's like, calm down.
Relax.
Yeah, if you only watch comic book movies, then I imagine Joker would be the best movie you've ever seen. Like,
True.
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
It's genre bending in that capacity.
I suppose, but like, yeah, I also watched Taxi Driver. Like, you know, I've seen another movie just like this one. It's like, and it kind of drives me crazy.
yeah.
You know, and I think in terms of Oscar capacity, the only award it should win is acting. I don't think it deserves anything else. The fact it got 11 nominations is bullshit. Because I don't even know what it's nominated for.
It's hype.
Let me see
right?
what it's. Yeah,
Like,
well, it's
getting lost in the
popular,
hype.
right?
Yeah.
It's like I mean, a lot of people feel this way about comic book movies in general, where it's like, yeah, there's a million of them, and like,
That was me. Honest to God, that's me. Like when another Marvel movie comes out, everyone's like, I'm so fucking stoked to see it and like I can't wait. Cool. Good for you. But to me, I'm like, it's the same humor. It's the same plot. It gets predictable as fuck. And like, cause I remember me and a friend of ours, Alen, we would sit in the theater and watch a movie and both him and I would be able to kind of sit there and be like, well, this will probably happen. Oh, look, it happened.
yeah,
And they're still entertaining at
Of
face
course.
value. Very entertaining
they're
movies.
roller coasters.
Exactly. But they're
You know
It's
when
just
you're going up a
another
roller
Marvel
coaster
movie.
that eventually you're gonna go over the hill and down a drop,
Yeah.
right? So like that's what I feel. That's what I feel about Marvel movies. Like
Yeah.
the only time I've ever been. You ever see Spider-Man: Homecoming?
no.
So
I was never a Spider-Man. Like I love Venom, and
True.
so I saw the Venom movie, and that's a whole other discussion. But in terms of, I used to play Spider-Man for my Super Nintendo,
Oh, classic. I have that, actually.
And at one point, you can play Venom.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my favorite part of the game. I love Venom. I think his character's super interesting.
Venom's a cool character, yeah.
But in terms of Spider-Man, cool. You got bit by a spider and you didn't die. Dope.
you didn't get poisoned and die. Congratulations, Peter Parker.
Wow, you have very sticky hands from probably jizzing all the time, and now you can climb walls with them.
Would you guys say that's the two? I think the two most popular superheroes from Marvel DC is probably Batman and Spider-Man. I would think.
I would have argued Wonder Woman.
Batman, I could say for DC for sure.
Oh no, I think Batman
In
is
my
like
opinion.
almost borderline ubiquitous.
Fair.
Marvel is tough.
So many people
after,
know
after the
who
DC
Batman is.
universe. It's tough because like the Cat movies are so well loved that I want to say Captain America, but at the same time, like
Iron Man.
But you have to remember that Spider-Man.
Iron Man wasn't popular until the Marvel movies, like the MCU dragged him
Really?
out.
Isn't that
yeah,
crazy?
Iron Man was like in the
Interesting.
vault. Iron Man was a deep dig.
Iron Man was
I
like a
did not know
C-list superhero.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
you know when
He had like
Guardians
a
of the,
TV show in like the 70s or 80s that everybody hated.
yeah, you know when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and everyone was like, oh my god, they're bringing back Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what people were saying about the first Iron Man.
Interesting.
When they were like,
Yeah.
they're doing a Robert Downey
I did
Jr.
not know
Iron Man movie,
that.
like a big
Yeah.
budget Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then it sparked this, now we can't get enough of them.
Right. Yeah, of course.
It's interesting, right? Because film and like generations of film goes in cycles, right? Like we had like westerns, then we had rom-coms. And I'm doing this out of order, of course. It's no specific order. Action movies, so on and so forth. Right now we're thick in the comic book movies.
Yeah.
I really want to see what comes next.
Yes.
And like I don't want Marvel movies to go away, because I do like them. They released a teaser trailer for the Disney Plus shows.
Mm-hmm.
And
I saw that.
looks real good.
Yeah.
Because
They all look super good.
the shows have the same budget as the movies. So it's essentially just the movies, right?
So interesting. So it's kind of bringing it back to what we were talking about originally, but have you ever thought about the fact that a comic book is someone's ongoing inner monologue?
I suppose it is. Lots of comic book characters talk to themselves.
Yeah. And essentially you're having conversations in your head that you're now just relaying onto a piece of paper. You're not saying them out loud per se, but you're creating these stories that came from somewhere.
That's an
such
interesting
as your
comparison.
brain.
That's how I
actually.
feel whenever I write scripts.
Yeah.
It's like I have to take a conversation, make it happen in my head, and put it onto paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you play out like different scenarios to see how that conversation might go and what might be quote unquote entertaining
Right.
or valuable. And I just find, and I think that's also what's interesting in terms about music too, is that once again, music is also a way for you to get whatever is in here, your
Yeah.
brain, out there into the world. So
Yeah.
essentially music, especially jazz, I think, or rap music for sure.
Yeah.
Rap music is just
Yeah.
a way for you to fucking outer monologue.
Well,
Yeah.
like that's why
Any monologue, outer monologue.
I know I'm not the first person to say this, but like that's why I love Kendrick Lamar so much is because Kendrick Lamar, like the thing that made him popular was he released Good Kid, Mad City, which
Yeah.
is like a concept album about the day in the life of a kid who lives in Compton, and he so
Straight outta?
accurately straight outta
Straight
Straight
out.
out of dude.
directly from.
That's how a gangster says it. Straight out.
But he like took like it's like a slice of life, but there's like guns and shit and like
Yeah.
people get shot and like he loses
It's
loved
actually
ones
it's a
and
very
stuff.
tragic album.
Yeah, and it's like so when it came out, people who were from Compton were like, I can't believe he captured a day in our lives like
Yeah.
so well,
Yeah.
so intricately and so well, and it's truly like the highest form of art, I think. And that's why I love slice of life stuff. I say this
Yeah.
all the time, but I love like I'm like the only person I know who still loves Napoleon Dynamite. You know what I mean? Like I love just like, because I've lived such a like a weird kind of straightforward life.
Yeah.
That like I love the idea of looking at what other people do in a day or in like over the course of like a specific amount of time. Because like I've just been like, I'm tired of my fucking life. Like, what do you do? Like,
That's exactly why
what is
I
it
would
like?
watch.
What's it
something
like being a
stupid.
teenager in Middle America?
Yeah.
What is it like being a doctor, but it's not all about like your practice and your
Yeah.
medicine. Like what is
What
your
happens when you
personal
go
life
home?
like? What
Yeah.
happens when you go home? What does that look like?
Yeah.
What does your walk home look like?
Yeah.
what is it like being a teenager in like suburban
Laguna
America?
Beach. I genuinely,
Funny
no
enough,
shame.
you would think I would like reality TV more because I like
But
to
it's
see
so
what people's
scripted.
lives are like. But it's just so I can't stand it.
I loved. I genuinely, come at me, don't care.
Yeah.
Laguna Beach and the hills were my jam because I watched those and I was like, thank God my life is not that.
It's not
Well,
that.
listen,
Yeah.
my good buddy Redacted, whose name we don't mention on the podcast, loves Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Like genuinely so. Like
I remember you telling me that, and I was
not-
like, him?
Not a shred of irony. Loves Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to the point where because I was hanging out with him and I was like, okay, you have to explain to me what you like about Jersey Shore. And he broke it down and said like, well, the show has evolved, right? The first 3 seasons of Jersey Shore, which is like them on the shore, and them on the shore again, and then on in
Partying
Italy.
To the shore.
in the
In
shore.
Italy.
Right. They
Yeah,
went to
Return of the Shore. But the thing is, like, those 3 seasons are all real trite. They're just like partying and being Guidos
Fighting
and shit and
and-
fighting, being like rowdy and ignorant. But now that they brought it back, it's been like a decade since they filmed that.
Which is
Yeah,
so
it's like
crazy.
the
to
Empire
think about.
Strikes the Shore.
The Return of the Shore.
Return of the Shore.
Revenge of the Shore.
Yeah.
The Last Shore.
Attack of the Shore.
The Rise of Shore.
The Last Shore.
So, yeah, the Tale of Two Shores.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the thing that's interesting about Jersey Shore now is that they're adults, and most of them have grown. Some of them got married.
Kids, yeah.
They have some have kids and shit.
Yeah.
Like they're
Bebes.
just living lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still party and do dumb shit, and like sure they're
doesn't?
scripted. I'm sure that most of their shit is scripted.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see the evolution of that,
Yeah.
and that's what he finds particularly interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's a good explanation.
Yeah.
I could see why you'd be into that.
I can't stand when people shame people for watching things because if
Yeah.
it gives you enjoyment, if it gives you entertainment, if it takes you away
Yeah.
and allows you to forget about that inner monologue going on in your head because it's driving you insane, then fucking watch the show. I don't give 2 shits.
Hey man, listen, like
Like-
I'm very vocal about how much I like animation.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I have to remind. I'm watching this new series on Netflix called Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts. It's really good,
Yeah.
super good. Like it's really well animated. It's got a bunch of great voice actors in it. It helps that I want to be a voice actor, so like you kind of have to study what you want.
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
But
What you really, really want. Sorry, I was going to say that faster, but I was sipping my iced tea and I was like,
what you really want?
I never swallowed so hard in my life.
Not yet. You never know. Well, the thing
I'm
with
so single.
but when I turn on an episode of Kipo, it comes up Y7Y, which is like young
X,
folks
Y.
Yeah.
for 7 and up.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, I'm not in that age demographic, but I still get tons of enjoyment out of it. I think it's a great story.
Sorry, okay. Oh, I don't mean to cut you off, but I genuinely just had an inner monologue moment where I just said I made a joke out of what you just said, and it's killing me on the inside. It's not okay. I'm gonna share
You
it.
crack yourself up.
I'm
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said, oh boy, you said why 7Y, and then I said because 7, 8, 9.
Oh my god.
It's like gut reaction. You're like, oh, that's
But
funny.
like I'm listening to you, but I just want to. I like going back to the original thoughts. I always enjoy doing that because it's really interesting how one concept can branch off into so many different things.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of podcasts. The beauty of podcasts are an inner monologue. That you see out
it's
loud.
certainly a form of one. I would say.
At
I
least
didn't mean
this
to
form of
interrupt you, though.
podcast is.
No. My cap off my thought. Like I look at that and I understand that from a ratings board standpoint. Like obviously, I'm not the core demographic of the show, but at the same time, like I go on Twitter and I follow a bunch of animators and people who work in animation, tweeting about shit like, yeah, I was at a coffee shop one time, meeting with someone, so forth, who I haven't seen in a while, and they asked what I'm up to, and it's like, oh, I make cartoons, like I'm in animation. Excuse me, and the response is something along the lines of like, that's a little like it's a little like childish, isn't it? And I'm like, who the fuck do you think makes cartoons? Do you think children make cartoons?
You just see like a 5-year-old drawing Homer Simpson and
Yeah,
just being
really.
like, this
Yeah.
guy's really fat and
Merch.
she's really tall.
And they're all yellow.
Have you guys, speaking of, okay, let me just bring this up really quickly because it blew my brain hole. I saw a picture, right? I might have sent it to Cam, but
Wow, not me.
because
No, it's fine.
yeah, I'm okay. Anyways,
I kid.
cricket. I saw a picture once where it was the skeletons of Bart and Lisa, but it was the
their
skeleton
hair. Yeah.
was
With the
their
hair?
bone structure was the hair, and they're like, do they actually have hair or is it just their head?
Is it just their
It's just
heads?
skin.
And I was
Do they
like,
have sick little
Whoa.
yellow sparky heads?
yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine if they tried to do like a CGI Simpsons movie a la Detective Pikachu?
Could never work.
And you just like see them and it's like skin and it's like when I saw like I think it was Lickitung in the trailer or something like that, and he had like veins
Yeah.
underneath his skin. I was like, this is so
It's not.
creepy.
Yeah, he's
wrong.
like transparent.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to think about your like cardiovascular system. You're a
Your
Pokemon.
pulmonary
Yeah.
system is
Exactly.
not
It's like, I don't want to
if you,
see
if
like
you cut Lickitung, will he bleed?
I don't want to like see the texture of Lisa Simpson's like skin or whatever.
I
Like
know.
she's just yellow. She's just yellow. Like just leave it alone.
Well, you know what it is? It's like, isn't
Not
it
everything has to
because
be
it's
live
because
action.
interesting
her
to
mom
think
has
about.
blue hair though. Why doesn't any of her
True.
kids
Wasn't
have
anyone
blue
else?
hair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do Lisa
Maybe
and
if
Maggie
Maggie
look the
ever
same?
grows up, she'll
Maybe.
if they ever
Poor
age Maggie
Maggie.
up.
Well, it's funny because The Simpsons was a hit that when they released it, they didn't think was going to be a hit.
Yeah.
Like it was a total surprise when it became a culture phenomenon. So I think when Matt Groening designed the characters, because a lot of the times nowadays when a big studio puts out a new show, they say to themselves like, oh well, how is the merchandise going to work? How are the toys going to look? So on and so forth. I don't think they thought about that with the Simpsons because they didn't expect it to be a hit. So as a result, The Simpsons cannot translate to 3D. You ever played like a Simpsons video game? Or even see what
yeah.
a Simpsons
Yes.
action figure
Yeah.
looks like?
I did play
Yeah.
a Simpsons video game.
They don't look good in 3D. They look terrifying in
Homer's
3D.
Yes.
eyes in 3D is like what? It
They're
looks like they're sitting on
bug-eyed.
top of his head.
Yeah.
They're not like
Ooh.
in an eye socket. It's just like
Marge.
there.
That's my Homer impression.
Yeah.
You should say his
just
wife.
one word.
It's just Marge. No, that's all he is. He goes,
And he says, "Don't."
oh, that's my boy.
I just broke the sound on your computer.
Homer.
Actually, these mics are pretty good about not
Yeah.
peaking.
It's fine.
The USB ones were like
Well, the USB ones was like, you're like, hey, welcome to... It was like,
yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know because they never worked for me.
yeah. It's funny, right? Because the first time we brought you over, the reason why it didn't work was mostly due to my inexperience. I didn't really know how recording, the way we were recording, would line up. And it resulted in something not working. Second time, we thought we had figured it out. But my little laptop here doesn't have the electrical power to run 3 USB microphones. So now that we have a soundboard and that's doing all the hard work and my computer can focus on something else, we're good. We're good.
We're all good.
Gouda.
And this episode's gonna air and everything's gonna work and it's all gonna be okay.
It's gonna work.
Work.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
I have an answer for you, Cameron.
In your wildest dreams, like one of these days, when let's say you're in like your 30s or
gonna get really
late
sexual.
30s, early
That's like
40s.
4 years from now.
I said late 30s, early 40s.
Scary.
With a little bit of hope, a little bit of luck, we'll all be making money, working consistently, maybe living in homes, right? Like, ideally, these things are
Nursing
true.
homes.
at 38.
Honest to God, sometimes I feel like my body is like 86.
And
so-
you know what? It doesn't even need to be in a home. It could be in an apartment. It could
Yeah.
be rent, whatever. My point is at one point in your life, when your schedule is finally consistent and you're making money, is there one thing that you would want to do a week? Like, every week, you do this thing. And what would that be?
Like a theme day.
Not even that. Like, for me, it would be a game night.
Yeah.
Like, every weekend.
Yeah.
There'd be, like, someone at a permutation of 30 people who want to come over to my home and play games with me.
Yeah.
Like, whatever that is. Like, that is something I would love to do.
So I would argue that I have a steady career.
Yeah?
I make money. I have an apartment. You know, I'm almost at the place that you're speaking
yeah,
of.
yeah. I would say you're rather close, if not there.
Like I've been a full-time employee with a career, benefits, everything for now 5 years.
Yeah.
So
You've been grinding.
I've been, yeah.
What
Anywho.
do you want to tell the people what you do? You don't have to mention the company.
No, I'm in fire protection and I sell sprinklers and fire alarm and fire extinguishers.
So when you get calls saying, "Are you happy with your fire protection services?"
say no and then hire me. Just that simple. We will do good things.
Her
for
phone
you.
number is 416. Her address is
722. No,
Fortnite
but
Road.
I definitely agree with a board game night, personally. I love board games. I'm
Me too.
happy that board games decided to resurface
Yeah.
again.
And
Another
they've been
thing that
going
came
super
back on.
strong.
Yeah, and I love that. But for me, I am going to probably do a course
Interesting.
to learn. Like, I was starting it, and I had to stop it because life happened. But I was starting a florist course.
Oh,
Because I want to
cool.
learn more about
Flowers
as a
and shit.
cake designer. I do a lot of real flowers on wedding cakes, and I want to know what flowers go with what flowers, because like there's funeral flowers, there's wedding flowers. It's oddly,
You don't want to put the sad flowers on the wedding cake, right?
and there's specific arrangements and what flowers should go what. And although it is still very much up to your own discretion what you like, whatever, it's still interesting to see that it did start off with a formula, essentially.
Right.
So that's what I would do, is I would take a course on becoming a florist.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
I actually I would love to be bilingual. I like how learning a new language opens up the world to you.
Mm-hmm. You can go to that place and
Oddly, I just want to
Yeah.
learn Russian, which doesn't really open much up to you.
You never
I
know.
can say
honestly.
potato. That works.
Yeah.
how do you say that?
Kartoshka.
Ooh.
You can say
Kartoshka.
okay, Russians at me, okay? I'm Irish.
You're inviting all the Russians into our
Yeah,
chat section.
yeah.
Dude.
So it's like
Russia has entered the
до
group chat.
свидания картошка. Спасибо. Or сколько времени картошка. And that's what time is it potato. Сколько времени
It's
is
not
what
even
time
like
is it.
like a fluid sentence.
No, it's like
a
сколько
broken-
время картошка.
What's funny-
До свидания.
You said that just now. Me and Sam are both like, wow.
Wow, it was a Russian
I know,
Sounds
but
like she spoke
That's
Russian.
why I learned how to say potato, because that was my reaction when I heard potato in Russian. I was like, I need to know this.
Yeah.
I mean, Russian seems like a beautiful language.
I personally think it is a stunning language. It's not German. No offense. No offense. Just my
You know
own
what, though?
personal opinion.
I've always said that German is like possibly the ugliest language, but
Yeah.
my thinking has changed on that. When
Gaelic is the ugliest language.
Yeah, when you listen to somebody speak
Colombian
fluent German,
women.
it's actually
No.
like it's. I still don't think it's the prettiest thing, but like it's not bad.
Talking about German.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what language would you learn, Sam?
and also, is this also what you would like to do every week? Is this...
I wouldn't mind. I think learning, like taking a course and like gaining a new skill is actually a good idea. Just a straight up Capricorn answer.
Especially if you have the free time. Are you both
Yeah.
Capricorns?
I'm a Cancer bitch.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yo, I
But,
live my life in an emotional roller coaster of disasters.
More on that in a minute, 'cause I'm curious about that. But continue.
French. I
French, you would learn to speak French?
I think it's important because it's Canada's official language.
There's a lot of jobs out there that's like you have to be able to speak French
Yeah,
and English.
and they
You want to work
pay
outside of
super
Ontario?
well. Yeah.
You have to work, speak French.
I also
toast!
just think it's a beautiful language.
It is, and if you learn a romantic languages, the other ones come easier.
Yeah, honestly, like I was really good at French in school, and I took one Spanish class in like grade 10 or 11, and it was already, I wasn't fluent in it, but Spanish was so much easier.
Yeah.
because I was
Honestly-
good at French already and could recognize a lot of words.
To be honest, okay, so clearly I didn't do well with learning second languages, but
Me neither.
I would be the greatest prostitute if I was in a country where you had to speak Spanish, because the only things I know are ¿Dónde está el banco? Where's the bank? And ¿Cuánto cuesta por noche? How much per night?
Wow.
So I'm set.
But so if you wanted to start your
like, "Hola."
career as a
Well,
prostitute,
no, because if you were a sex
Spain.
worker in a Spanish-speaking country, you wouldn't be asking how much per
True.
night. You would say it's this much per night.
Unless I'm one of those like bartering sex workers.
all you have to do is download
I'm
that
like, how
app
much
on
do
your
you
phone.
think I cost per night?
Yeah. When you go to different countries now, all you have to do is download that Google Translate app and just learn how to say "speak into the phone" in that
Yeah.
language. So
True.
Yeah.
you know,
But I don't
Hola,
want to rely on
Siri.
technology that much because it's still that technology is still like really iffy.
Yeah.
It's
I've
a
heard
lot.
amazing
It's a
things about
lot
it.
better
It
than what it
gets-
was than what translation technology
Yeah.
was like 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ago.
It gets the point across.
Facebook,
But-
Google Translate like conjugates now.
I will.
And does
will
proper
say,
French
I will
and shit.
say,
It's
'cause,
crazy.
like when we were coming back on the plane from Cuba, unfortunately, because it was January, the gate froze and we were stuck on the plane, like grounded
for an
another
additional
2
hour.
hours. And
2
there was-
hours,
Wow.
yeah.
There was a Cuban lady next
on
to
a
me.
plane.
Yeah.
And the
on
flight
a
was the
plane.
flight was 3 hours.
on a fucking Sunwing plane too.
Oh.
We spent
It was
5 hours on a
torture.
plane.
It
I've
was
never
torture.
wanted to cry in a public place so badly.
But
That's me every day.
there was a Cuban lady beside us because we were leaving Cuba. We were coming from Cuba, and there was a Cuban lady beside me who was meeting family in Toronto, and she didn't know, like she couldn't understand what was going on, and she was like tapping me on the shoulder and like trying to talk to me. It was actually kind of frustrating because I'm like so tired, and Cam is sitting beside me, and he's so miserable, like so miserable that he's not talking, and I'm like, I could use some help.
Yeah.
But or just somebody like a second person to like dilute this so the conversation isn't entirely on me with this language barrier. But I was using Google Translate to like talk, and I would like talk into it and translate from English to Spanish, and I would show her the phone, and I could like talk to her that way.
That's awesome.
And I would like give her the phone, and I'd be like, habla español, and like have her talk into the phone and like translate it back to me.
Wow.
And I was able to tell her what was going on with the plane.
That's awesome.
That way. Yeah, it was super helpful. So like great technology,
But if
but
you
it's
lose your
not
phone
perfect.
though, or your
Yes.
phone dies,
Exactly.
you're
But
fuckied.
as long,
not
I think as
perfect.
long as it. See, my thing is, if I ever go into a foreign place, and now I haven't traveled much, but I really want to.
Yeah.
I want to go to all the lands. That's my bucket list. Is every land: Ireland, Switzerland,
Oh,
Netherlands.
okay.
okay.
I thought you meant like
Scotland.
continents.
No, that's what. See, this is the thing. Is I always say them. They're like continent. Like, I get it. So I specify. Just not England. Not a big. I don't like. I would if I could, but like it's not whatever.
It's not high on my list.
No.
Yeah.
I
Also,
have no desire to go.
England is kind of big.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, it's not well, it is a single body of land,
Yeah.
but it's a larger one.
But
I
like
guess.
Greenland,
Yeah.
Iceland for sure. Iceland.
Iceland is gorgeous.
New Zealand
A
is
actually
my
Shark Boy
first.
went to Iceland a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
that's right. That's right. And then they seemed as though they really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
But where was I going with this?
I don't know. You started the story.
Traveling.
Oh yeah, it's like any
languages.
single time that I travel somewhere, I don't like the fact that we try and make foreigners change their ways in
Yeah.
order to make us comfortable.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I want to try and speak your language. I'm in your culture.
Exactly.
I'm eating your food.
Exactly.
So let me try. And
Yeah.
even if I have to use Google Translate, but it comes out mumbled, or as long as you get the point across,
yeah.
I think that means more to them than it
Just-
does if I'm just
yeah.
like, do you
Saying
speak English?
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I
No, I
want to
agree.
learn French, because the French are notoriously snooty and do not like it when people can't speak their language.
Yeah.
So, like,
I feel well.
Yeah,
But
I
again,
don't know.
I'm
something about something, and like it's probably not even true. You know, there are snooty and not snooty people in every culture.
Oh,
Of
there's
course.
stereotypes for everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
But like something about that pisses me off and makes me want to conquer it.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
Right.
I want to
absolutely.
I want to master the French language and like be able and then have someone like see me come off a plane in Paris from Toronto and be like, "Oh, you're just an English speaker, blah blah blah," and then I'm like perfect French, like ha ha ha.
You know what? A guy on
Motherfucker.
YouTube did that. I watched a video just the other day where
Oh, like a white guy speaking like flawless
Japanese.
Yes.
Flawless
yes.
Japanese, and he's
Yes.
like, I'm gonna screw over, like I'm gonna surprise all of these waitresses at these restaurants.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what, like I love the concept of that, but actually doing that would be really satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's even like, this is super broad, but it's even like a female doing a man's job.
Yeah.
How someone will look at me and be like, okay, all right, yeah, right, like you can screw
Yeah.
an extinguisher to a steel I-beam, and then I'm just like, "Bzzzt,"
Yeah.
and they're like,
Not afraid.
damn.
Yeah. Totally.
Yet I have no numbers, so hit me up, y'all.
I also just like the way that French sounds coming out of my mouth. Like I know a few, like I can say like a couple phrases. I'm like decent, and I'm even decent at reading French, and I'm like pretty proud of myself for that.
Good.
I
That's
follow Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh on Twitter, and because they're politicians in the House of Commons, they have to tweet in French and English.
Right.
So I'll come across their French tweets, and I can like sometimes like translate them like pretty decently well.
Nice.
Good for you.
Like I'll go back to their English tweet and like check it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so proud of myself.
I
I
almost
like
got
the
there.
way French sounds coming out of my
That's
mouth.
awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes I talk to like the cats that I'm taking care of in French.
I almost got there with Polish. Because working in the trades, there's so many Polacks.
Yeah, lots of Polish people.
Sorry, they actually not all of them.
I was gonna
like
say,
to
isn't
call
that
Polacks.
a slur or like a
See,
derogatory
so this is
term?
the issue, is that the one guy that I worked with, he says it depends on the Polish. Some Polish actually find that very demeaning, and
Like
some people
offensive.
are just
So it's
kind
like
of
black people in the N-word. There are
Pretty
some black
much.
people who are like literally never call me the N-word, and
Yeah.
other people are like, you should call black people should call all other black people the N-word.
So I do not mean it in a derogatory way at all. I just
Yeah.
mean Polish people. But there's a lot of Polish people in the trades, and there's a lot of other people in the trades too. But I've just worked with a lot of Polish people.
Interesting.
And it got to the point where I went to my friend's birthday party, his 40th birthday party, and his whole entire family, every single person that was there, was speaking fluent Polish. And someone walks up to me and says, "Piwo proszę?" And I know that they're asking me if I want a beer.
Oh.
And so I go, yes, please. So I respond in English, but
Cool.
I was getting to the point where I could almost start translating it
Yeah,
in my head.
yeah.
Well, that's another crazy thing
That's
about the
you're on
human
the
brain.
road to like understanding a language in that
Yeah.
Slow,
sense.
very
Yeah.
long road, but yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I've heard the best way. I mean, you hear this all the time. It's like, no.
Immerse yourself.
Yeah, if you could go to like the Italian countryside and live in a place in Italy where it's like they only speak Italian, and even then it's like deep country Italian.
You
Italian. You'll learn the language super quick because you have to fucking survive.
Yeah.
That's what your brain
You have
goes,
to, yeah.
right?
You'll
It's like
figure out a way.
you'll learn how to communicate, even if it's really simple, rudimentary communication. Eventually, you'll be able to learn words and stuff.
And it makes you have so much respect for anybody who's come to Canada, where we're just like, I can't even go to this place because I can't understand the person because they just like, why would you come to Canada and not learn how to speak proper fucking English?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, go to their place and you like it's like Terminal with
Tom Hanks.
I loved that
movie gets
because
so underrated when
I never
people talk
watched
about
it.
his filmography, and it's
God.
actually so good.
Terminal
heard of
is about Tom Hanks, who plays a English speaking man who gets stuck in a airplane terminal, and all he wants to do is try and figure out why, and he's trying to get to his family, I believe.
There's some like weird loophole that happens
Spielberg.
with his ticket, and like he can't leave the terminal, like he can't leave the airport, but he also can't get on another flight.
Yes.
So he's like stuck in this
Yeah,
limbo.
since he can't return to his native country because of a military coup.
Yeah.
And so he can't, and he gets really frustrated at some points, and then I think there's like, it's so well done.
What I remember the most from that movie is there's a part where his character tries, because he's stuck there for like weeks.
Yeah.
So, and he runs out of money. Like he can't buy anything because I think he's stuck in America.
Yes.
And he doesn't have American money. So he learns that there's a place in the terminal where you can donate empty cans.
Yeah.
And he takes time and like collects a bunch of cans, and he starts doing that for a couple of days, and someone comes up to him and says, "You can't do that. Like, you're making too much money off of it, and you can't, like, you can't, you can stay here all you want, like, we understand, but like you can't make money while you're here. You can't donate cans."
Fun
You
fact
can't
about
survive.
the
Yeah.
terminal. I'm reading about the terminal now. Apparently, the country that Tom Hanks' character is from is Krakozia, which is a fictional country.
Yes.
That they made up for the movie.
Yes.
To the point where John Williams composed a national anthem for
That's
Krakozia.
awesome.
John Williams did the music
Love
for that
that.
movie?
Yeah, it's Spielberg.
Wow.
And they, and they do everything together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not everything necessarily, but
Just
that's really cool.
interesting.
No, yeah, that movie. And honestly, I think if you take, we're in Ontario, so like French is mandatory here up until grade 9.
Yeah.
But I really
10
think
for us,
that
yeah.
everybody all over the world should have to take at least some kind of language course, and there needs to be more of a culture component built into language courses.
I totally agree.
Because like,
There needs to be more options, though.
yeah,
Like, I get that
Yeah.
French is our second
official language.
official language.
Yeah.
I would have loved the opportunity to learn a different language besides French. Like, in my high school, we didn't even have Spanish classes.
Oh,
Really?
really?
No.
We had Italian at
I
Gonzaga.
had Spanish and German
Yeah.
at my school.
My mom learned German. She took German classes in university, actually.
Okay.
And she was able to sing. My mom's a beautiful singer. My mom used to sing Silent Night in German.
Oh, cool.
Stille Nacht.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's so pretty in German.
I know it's pretty, but Stille Nacht is like,
I know.
give your kids nightmares.
Actually, a friend of mine, Emily, they
Well, it might not be.
didn't want to do French, and what they did is they went to an adult learning school and took Japanese. Like there are like if you have like an adult look into this if you're like interested in it, if you're in like high school right now or something like that, like people out there.
Yo, holla at your high school boys.
But, like-
wait, no, that sounds like I'm trying to. No,
I was gonna say,
no,
do you
no,
want
no,
that?
no.
Because we're
Reverse.
gonna tag
Nope.
you in all the promo
Nope.
for this episode. Do you want that
DM
kind of
Sarah
attention?
Strype at Sarah
at
Striper XO.
sexy underwear dot.
Be sure to subscribe to Sarah's OnlyFans.
Gross.
Underwear on sale for $3.
Yeah. Buy her Gamer Girl bathwater.
Yo, you know about that shit?
Yeah. How did you know?
How did you know?
That has Epsom salts in it.
Yeah, you could buy Chill Spot bathwater. I'd sell that. So I'm not above that
I'll
shit.
sell anything for an extra couple of bucks a month. To
You
be
know?
perfectly honest, if it's renewable enough, like something as renewable as bathwater, like fuck it. If
Totally.
there's a market for it. But yeah,
Talking about languages.
You can go to just like any official like Ontario official like learning space,
Learning center, yeah.
take another language. You just need like a language. My friend didn't do French. They did Japanese instead.
I've always wished that, and I've always said this ever since when they brought it onto it. I've always found that the way Canadian schools approach French wasn't good. Because they didn't make it enticing at all.
True.
Like, as a kid, I feel like if you really want to all of a sudden start to, because for me it was grade 4. I started learning French in grade 4. So, come grade 4th comes around, you have all of the older kids from like grade 2 to 3 to 4 who are being like, oh, you have to learn French next year, it's going to suck. Just saying that, like, just like planting those seeds. And you get there, and you as a kid are like, well, why do we have to learn French? Like, what, we didn't have to do this before. Now we have to do it. Why have to do it? And my teachers' attitudes, I found, were always like, well, you just have to. Because it's the second language. You have to learn it. In my opinion, if they were like, well, yeah, but if you pay attention and do well and study, like, you'll learn another language. You'll be able to communicate with a whole different crowd of people. Like, I feel like that's enticing. Obviously, this is all in retrospect, and hindsight's 20/20, but I almost feel like if I was a kid, I would feel better about that. I would say, oh, that's cool. Like, I want to learn the language now.
People always fight me on this, but I remember having, like, really rudimentary French lessons when I was in kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
So they got me right at the beginning of school, and it was just like part of lessons. I don't know, the French teacher would come in and for like an hour out of like our day would teach us like colors or like
Seriously?
rooms in the house. There were no tests, but like
That's how they should have done it.
We were just used. I shouldn't say we. I was used to just having French class like as soon as I hit school. You know,
was that a French immersion school?
No, not at all. It was just a regular old elementary school, just a regular old public school.
That was not my school.
I remember at least like maybe it just wasn't all the time, and that's why people always fight me on it. But I remember at least one French lesson when I was in kindergarten. We'd like sing a song about pizza or something like that.
Smoke a cigarette.
Oh yeah. Piscine. Yeah.
We also did Sur
Yeah.
French.
I still remember my directions. I still remember like my placements because of that song. And sometimes if I'm like, again, internal monologue, my brain, my like squirrel brain will just be like, let's think about directions in French. And I'm like, Sur Soudan devant derrière. And I'm like standing in the aisles at work, like with my fists and my hands are like going in front of, behind, à côté de, like all that stuff.
We Will Rock You with the days of the week.
No, I didn't do
Lundi, mardi, mercredi.
No.
Mercredi, yeah.
Actually, I think they did the same. They did the same tune as like swimming in a pool. So like, there was nageons dans le piscine, and then there was like, it was lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi, vendredi, samedi, dimanche.
Yeah, you do sound sexy with a French accent.
It sounds good coming out of my mouth.
Yeah,
and
girl.
I like it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I'll like walk around the store and I'll be like, pomme de terre.
But
like,
arguably, it's interesting for someone who has had it planted in their brain since kindergarten.
I never minded it, and I was always
hasn't.
Yeah,
I'm just like fuck French.
And because I didn't mind it, I felt like I was like naturally inclined to be good at it.
Well, exactly.
Because
I think that you received,
because it was just there.
I think you when you met my friends was a little surprised when like every single person I grew up with was like, yeah, I fucking hate French.
But I had friends who hated French, you know, and as soon as we hit grade 9, they were like, I'm taking applied French, getting this fucking credit over with, and I'm out. I'm done. I can't wait to never touch French again.
I definitely agree with Cam, though, in a sense that it's not something that you looked forward to. It wasn't.
It was something that was shunted on you.
Yeah.
Something that you had to do.
Yeah.
But you didn't want to do.
Exactly.
I feel as though elementary schools could have done a better job of making me want to learn French.
Yeah.
Because kids are impressionable and they take in what you give them. Yeah, some kids have a bad attitude, and I can't promise my attitude was great.
True.
Obviously, right? But I think that if my French teacher, not even just my friend. This applies to teachers as a whole.
Yeah.
And schools and their attitude towards it. Because I also found my French teachers just to be rather flippant on the subject.
And I would even argue, though, just because my mom was a teacher and my mom was amazing, she still can hear French she can translate in her head, but she can't speak it. I don't necessarily believe it's teachers at all. I believe it's the curriculum that they're given.
That's a good point.
Honestly, because, you know, your teachers most often I feel like this is like the worst topic to talk about right now just because of
they're
what's
on
going
strike.
on.
Yeah.
But like teachers are essentially just given this and being like, make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially with
Make
French,
miracles happen.
it can be so hard and such a daunting task to children for them to learn a different language that it's just kind of like,
Here's the,
Well,
the
here we
basic
go.
of the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then plus it doesn't help with the stigma of the fact that it has to be learned and like it's all encompassing
That's a good point.
horribleness.
We need
lots
Jen
of-
on this podcast.
Yeah, no
we
kidding.
Need Jen
True.
so bad.
Let her come and expunge.
Our friend Jen is not only a teacher, but she's a French teacher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
So
True.
Like,
Oh, I miss Jen.
I
Yeah.
know.
Fun time.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times.
I miss Jen every
Jen,
minute
love
she's
you.
not around.
You hear that,
Yeah,
Jen?
That's fair.
Shout out to Jen.
Comment on this video if you watched it.
Yeah.
I'll know if you. I'll know if you
I
don't.
hope every single Jen out there, any Jen at all, just
matter.
please comment and put like a heart
This day is dedicated to Jens.
to
So-
Jens.
To Jens.
But to,
Fuck
ra-
Jen.
to,
Not
ra-
Jennifers.
No.
Jens.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
to
fuck
round
yeah,
off our
Jens.
French conversation, I think I agree with you, Sam. I feel like if language courses included culture from the go, as opposed to
Yeah.
having to take French culture, like if they included the two things together, I almost feel as though it would be more interesting to listen
Well, because like
and easier to learn.
because you grew up learning French, you're like, oh, French is our second official language, and there's no like explanation as to why.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a whole historical story as to why French came to be our second official language.
Yeah.
So what's that story, and like what's the culture behind that? Who rose up and like really wanted French to be represented in the Canadian identity? Like, how did that? I genuinely don't know how that came to
The
be.
one
Me
thing
neither.
I really
Why isn't that talked
appreciated
about?
in high school, for my high school, was we had one night where we called it multicultural night.
Mm-hmm.
And you had, I guess it was like 8 or 9 different groups of only like 2 or 3 people. You'd come up with your own group. And you had to pick a culture, and you had to bring one food item from that culture.
Cool.
You had to bring the flag from that culture, and you had to bring one other either fact, information, dance, something else from that culture. So there's 3 things in total, and we made it a whole night. And you could go around. It was like a buffet,
Okay.
and you got to try all these different cultural foods,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so fun.
It's like Karasaga.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so great. And it's like, why is this not introduced earlier? Why did it take until grade 10 in high school for me to have this sort of when we could have been, especially nowadays with us being a cultural mosaic?
Yeah.
Why not do this younger?
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
It's a good point.
Just breed out xenophobia like right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So can we say
just
lesson
teach it
number
out.
1 is to explore culture when you explore language?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think I've spoken to not just our friend Jen. I met someone like just through like working with GLA and stuff like that who was like fluent in French and spent time in France, like living there as a young person. And he said like it's you got to go to the country whose language you're learning. You gotta go because it's an entirely different thing to like take a class, pass all the tests that say
Yeah.
you're bilingual. It's an entirely different thing to actually drop into that country.
Absolutely.
And like be steeped in the culture and the cadence and the way that they talk. Like you think about
their
how
slang. Yeah.
exact slang totally, and the
Yeah.
speed with which people speak it. It's not these tapes that are like, ce que je peux. Like it's not
La
like that.
biblioteca.
Lesson number 2 is to
Yeah.
learn as many swear words as you can in other languages. Be sure
Yeah.
to say them loudly
Seal.
and in public.
Oh wait, I mean, un fuck.
Fuck.
And lesson number 3 is to appreciate your friends always. Sarah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
for
so
the
much for
third
having
time.
me.
I hope
Thanks
you had
making
fun.
it work. I had so much fun, and I'm very, very. I love seeing where you guys are now compared to where you guys were when I first tried to come
Yeah.
on.
You've seen us grow.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And I'm so honored to be on this. And anytime you guys want me back, I'm happy to join.
Is there anything you want to plug, Sarah? Is there any social media like people to maybe find you at?
Yeah. Yo, holla at your girl at
Nice.
Sarah Sweet Shop 92 on Instagram. And that's it.
And
I'm not
that's it.
popular. I want to start a YouTube channel and make it about fire protection. So if any of y'all want to know about how to use an extinguisher, hit up your girl.
Sarah's gonna make it sexy though.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you hear how sexy that was? Hit up your girl.
Yeah.
So if you wanna, I don't know.
Sarah,
Like, just take the
if that was
extinguisher.
being whispered in my ear during coitus, I mean,
No,
Duly noted.
just take your extinguisher and just point it. Oh, point it.
Yeah.
Squeeze
Fire
it.
No.
safety ASMR.
Sam, I
Squeeze
want
it
you to get close to
hard.
me and just be like, so listen here, dog. I know that we're fucking at the moment.
Yo, bitch.
Yeah.
I just expel all of that agent everywhere. Oh, yeah.
But just like fire safety and how important it is, you will find us.
Maybe don't get those plastic fire extinguishers. Get that nice steel one going.
Oh yeah, get the steel-handled ones.
You will find us next week, same time, same place, Tuesday at 3 p.m. on your favorite YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. We may have a guest, we may have not, but be sure to check back and find out. We do lots of YouTube stuff. We have 3 unique shows that end up at the start of the week and 2 Let's Plays that update at the end of the week. So be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. Interact with us. Comment on our stuff. Send us suggestions of stuff you'd like to see us talk
Yell
about
at
here.
us when you don't like what we're doing.
Hit that like button and hit that ding
Ring the
button
bell.
if you want to get notified for when you post more new things.
Exactly. Sarah's exactly right. You should subscribe and get notified, because when you get notified, you won't miss a video.
There you go.
Notified brings the
Pie home.
the homicide.
There we go.
Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.